While Josh was sound asleep, the infected monster was closing in on him. Hi friends, today I'm going to tell you a story that happened to a doctor named Josh. Today was Josh's last day of work before his vacation. There was only one patient in the hospital named Joan. "Hey buddy, tonight is your last night in the hospital," said the doctor. "Hello! I'm very excited to go home to my family," replied the patient. "Your tests are perfectly fine, so you don't have to worry," Josh continued. The doctor went back to his office. He decided to watch the news before working. Josh saw a strange article about a new virus that had been discovered near his town. He kept flipping through the news, and each one was worse than the other. Suddenly, he heard strange noises coming from Joan's room. The doctor quickly ran to him, but the ward was empty. The doctor thought that maybe the patient had gone to the bathroom. He waited for him, but Joan never came back. Josh decided to find him and search the whole hospital. The search for the patient was fruitless. The doctor decided to call the police. 10 minutes later, Jimmy and Walter entered the hospital. "Hello, sir, what's your emergency?" Jimmy asked. "My patient is missing. I can't find him anywhere," replied Josh. "We'll look for him, but not for long, because there's a strange virus going around town," said Walter. The policeman entered the room and started to look around. Suddenly, a strange sound came from Josh's office. "I think it's Joan. I was so worried," said Josh. "Be quiet. We can't know for sure," replied Walter. Suddenly, the door opened, and Josh and the policeman couldn't believe their eyes. It was Joan. His skin color had turned green. His eyes were whitened, and he was smiling very strangely. Josh turned around and ran away. He heard the police officers screaming. The doctor came home. Josh closed all the doors and windows. He was very scared and cried for a very long time. When Josh calmed down, he decided to check the news. The doctor saw that 2 policemen were missing from the hospital. The doctor was filled with fear again. He decided to go to bed. It took Josh a long time to fall asleep, but he did. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. He got up and walked to the entrance. There were policemen standing in front of him, but now they looked like Joan. Josh cried with fear. Jimmy and Walter, with wide smiles, slowly approached Josh. And then Josh woke up and realized that it was just a dream. It was still night outside. The doctor decided to conquer his fear and go out of the house. The street was completely empty. He walked a few steps and saw a man. The doctor realized that this man was also infected with the virus. He stealthily walked past him, heading towards the hospital. On the way, he met a girl. "Please don't touch me. I want to stay human," said the man tearfully. The girl looked at the doctor and laughed. "Don't worry, I'm not a zombie yet, but I've been infected," replied the girl. Josh exhaled with relief. "I'm heading to the hospital to try and make an antidote," Josh said. The girl laughed again. "There's no way to create it that fast. It won't work," replied the stranger. But Josh talked the girl down and they headed off together. The doctor and his new friend, named Gwen, were lucky because the hospital was empty. Josh took some vials and started mixing the contents. Gwen was changing before his eyes. "Doctor, you have to hurry. I'm losing control," the girl said. Josh took the other test tubes and mixed them. "I'm almost done. Gwen, you have to fight," replied the man. Gwen's eyes turned white and her skin turned green. "It's too late. You won't cure anyone else," said the girl with a laugh. "We'll see about that," Josh replied. The doctor took the right vial of antidote and ran towards Gwen. He gave the girl the antidote and she returned to her previous state. "That really helped. You're a genius," Gwen shouted with joy. "Now we have to figure out how to cure the others," said Josh. The girl looked at her savior with misunderstanding. "That's impossible. There are too many of them," said Gwen. Joan ran into the hospital. He noticed Josh and Gwen and laughed. "Back for the police officers, doctor?" Joan asked. Josh and Gwen slowly backed toward the exit, but on the other side, an infected appeared too. They were closing in on the defenseless Josh and Gwen. Suddenly, something began to happen to the girl. She turned green again, but her eyes turned black instead of white. The doctor cried out in despair. "Don't worry, Josh. I won't figure it out," Gwen said with a smile. Joan and his assistant just ran away. "But how did you manage that? Why didn't you become evil?" Josh asked excitedly. "It seems thanks to your antidote I can control the transformation," replied the girl. Together, they brought many people back to human form. Josh took everyone who was cured back to his house. "We're going very slowly. We need to think of something," said Josh. "And what do you suggest?" Gwen asked. "We need to split up. That way we'll save more people," replied the doctor. The girl looked at Josh in horror. "But that could be dangerous. I'm strong now and I can protect you," Gwen said, crying. But Josh didn't listen to Gwen and they split up. The girl went to the mall and the doctor went down to the subway. He walked down the empty subway car. But suddenly the doctor heard footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Joan. "You shouldn't have come down here," said the infected man with a smile. "You're not an evil man. You're supposed to be fighting the virus," Josh said. The doctor's words made Joanna laugh. "I saw you save those guys. I did it all for nothing," continued Joan. Josh looked at his former patient in horror. "What did you do to them?" Josh asked, crying. "You don't want to know," replied Joan. The doctor wanted to get the antidote but realized he had lost it. At this time, the infected man was slowly approaching Josh. Gwen returned to Josh's house. She realized that the doctor hadn't been back for too long. Gwen went down to the subway. Josh wasn't there, but she found a note. "He's fine for now, but you must come to the hospital for him or run away," it said. Gwen rushed to the location without thinking. She was met by Joan and 2 other infected people. "You shouldn't have come for me. You won't be able to stop us anymore," said Joan. "Give me Josh back for good," shouted Gwen angrily. "Of course! He can't wait to see you himself," continued Joan. Josh appeared from the distance. Now he too had become infected. "Get out of here, Gwen! I can't control myself," cried the doctor. Gwen was terrified. Josh stopped crying and a wide smile appeared on his face. He ran towards the girl. Gwen took the last antidote out of her pocket and injected Josh. In a moment, he was human again. "You shouldn't have done that, but it's even more interesting this way," said Joan. Gwen and Josh ran out of the hospital and rushed away. After a few minutes, they managed to escape. "What do we do now?" asked the girl. "Keep running," replied the doctor. Together, they came to the pier and got into the boat. After a few hours, they reached a deserted island. "Now all we have to do is wait," said Josh. "But there are still a lot of uninfected people out there," objected Gwen. "We can't help them," replied the doctor, crying. Josh and Gwen were the only uninfected people left. They spent their lives on the island. The infected continued to reign in the city. They were absolutely everywhere. Joan was in charge. He controlled the rest of the infected. They tried to find Josh and Gwen, but they were nowhere to be found. But he knew he would get to them someday.